It's 10:30 in the morning. The morning elk hunt is over. Thermals have already blown out, and most elk hunters are back at camp eating. You've got 4 hours to kill before the evening. You have 4 hours where there seems to be a lot of dead time, and most guys sit in camp. Some of them sleep, a few dig out the binoculars and start glassing somewhere. And a very small number of hunters, the ones who figured something out, are slipping quietly into the timber towards a specific location they've already identified, setting up in that 40-yard range off a trail with the wind in their face. They're hunting wallows, and they're doing it while everybody else is resting. Wallows get talked about constantly in elk hunting circles, but what almost never gets talked about is how to actually hunt the wallows correctly, how to find the right one, read the sign that tells you it's actually worth your time, enter it without blowing it up, and position yourself to kill a bull without him knowing you were ever there. Most of the advice floating around is either too generic to be useful or flat out wrong, in my opinion. In this episode, I'm going to walk you through the complete Backbone Unlimited wallow hunting system, from map work to boots on the ground to the midday setup that a lot of hunters never even consider. Here's why this matters, coming from me specifically. I've been hunting and guiding elk in the Western Mountains for 34 years. I've hunted wallows across multiple states in multiple types of country, under every kind of pressure and weather condition you can imagine. I've watched hunters blow wallow setups by doing everything wrong: wrong entry, wrong position, wrong timing, wrong wind. And I've watched those same concepts done correctly result in some of the closest, most controlled encounters I've ever seen on a bull elk. What I'm giving you today isn't theory, it's what actually works on wallows. Now, before we talk about how to hunt wallows specifically, we also need to talk about which wallows are actually worth hunting, because this is where a lot of elk hunters waste their time. A wallow isn't just a wallow, isn't just a wallow. A muddy low spot near a drainage that gets visited once every 2 weeks is not the same as a heavily used, actively stinking pit that a mature bull is visiting on a reliable schedule. Hunting the wrong wallow is worse than not hunting wallows at all, because you're burning time, burning scent, and potentially educating elk in good country. What you're looking for is a primary wallow, a location with consistent and concentrated sign, multiple species of tracks, probably thick mud churned up, strong smell, hair on the edges, sometimes a rub or two nearby from a bull marking his presence. That wallow has an owner, and that wallow is worth your time. The first job is finding it. You don't find good wallows by wandering around the timber hoping to stumble across one either. You find them on a map first, then confirm them on foot. That's the ideal situation. So when you're looking on your map or your satellite layers, you're looking for wet, dark, disturbed ground near a water source, often visible as a dark mud patch or an area of vegetation near a spring or seep. Wallows tend to cluster around north-facing slopes where the moisture holds longer, near springs and seeps that maintain water into the hot months, and in dark timber where bulls feel secure enough to let their guard down. On your topo, look for the intersection of north-facing aspects with heavy timber and a water source. That's where wallows tend to live. Mark every candidate, then get boots on the ground and go confirm before season, because a wallow that looked promising on a map or that area, you might not know specifically whether it even holds a wallow, or it could be dry and unused. And oftentimes, a spot that looked like nothing can be the most active location in the drainage. When you walk up to a wallow, you're actually reading a story, right? The question is whether it's yesterday's story or last week's. Fresh sign is everything. Mud that's still wet and dark, not dried and cracking. Tracks with clean, sharp edges, not eroded and soft. Hair on the mud surface or caught on overhanging brush. The smell. A heavily used wallow has an unmistakable rut and mud smell that builds throughout the season. If it smells like a bull has been there recently, he probably has. Size and depth of tracks are also going to tell you what's using it, right? Big, deep, widely spaced tracks mean a heavy animal, a bull usually. Multiple sets of large tracks are going to mean multiple bulls or repeated visits. Rubs within 100 yards, particularly on trees near the wallow approach, tell you a bull is marking territory near his location. A wallow that checks all those boxes is really worth building a strategy around. Hey, if you hunt public land elk and you're tired of grinding through random seasons, I built the Elk Hunting series of ebooks for you. Most hunters don't struggle because they lack effort. They struggle because they lack a system. And that's exactly why I built the Elk Hunting E-Book Series as a complete progressive framework for Western elk hunters who are done guessing and ready to hunt with intention. Volume 1 is going to be Foundations and Reality. I reset your mindset and expose the assumptions that quietly wreck seasons. In Volume 2, Finding Elk and Understanding Pressure, you'll learn how elk actually move under pressure so you can anticipate instead of react. In Volume 3, Terrain, Wind, and Position, I break down how to use landscape and thermals to consistently create opportunities. In Volume 4, Calling, Silence, and Pressure, sound becomes a decision tool, not an impulse. In Volume 5, Bow Hunting Execution, we're talking about close range strategy so you can finish your encounters. And in Volume 6, Late Season and Post Rut, we're talking about how elk shift after the rut and how to adapt when others quit. This is a system built for consistency. This isn't theory, it's a structured system to help you find elk, read country, and make confident decisions every season. Buy each volume individually or bundle them all to save 50% off at backboneunlimited.com. Now, wallow hunting is not a replacement for your morning and evening elk hunt, right? Let that be clear up front. It's a midday strategy, something to do with the hours between when thermals blow out in the morning and when they settle again in the evening. A lot of hunters waste those hours. This is a productive way to stay in the game. The condition that makes wallows more valuable are these: early season, hot weather, and dry periods. Those are the ideal times. When September's running 85 degrees and the elk are heat stressed, the water and the mud become primary needs. Bulls are going to visit wallows during the middle of the day, specifically because the thermals are most stable and the human pressure in the woods has dropped off. Most hunters are at camp. The woods are more quiet, and a mature bull that's been bedded since 9 a.m. is sometimes going to move to a wallow between 11 and 2, particularly on the hottest days of the early season. That tends to be the best window. Everything about a wallow setup starts and ends with the wind. Get it wrong and you're never going to see the bull. You're just going to watch his tracks appear in the mud the next morning. Thermals are your primary concern. First thing in the morning, your thermals are probably still dropping, especially in the shaded areas. But as the sun heats the terrain up by mid-morning, they're going to start swirling a lot. And then by late morning to midday, depending on the terrain and the weather, they often stabilize into a more consistent uphill pattern. That's part of why midday is a viable water window, not just because elk move, but because the thermals are doing something more predictable for you. Check the wind before every entry. Walk your approach route with the wind in your face. Don't cut across the wallow or anywhere near it, or walk upwind of it even on your way in. Your scent is going to bomb the location before you ever sit down. Also, pick a day when the wind is right. If it's not right, don't go to the wallow. Now, here's where most hunters get it wrong. They set up right at the wallow, and I think that's a mistake. A mature bull doesn't commit to a wallow the way a young spike does. He's going to approach from downwind, stop short, test the air, and stand there reading the situation for a long time before he actually walks in. If your scent, your outline, or your movement is anywhere near that wallow, you're never even going to know he was there a lot of times. The correct setup is 40 to 60 yards off the wallow on the most likely approach trail or entry corridor. You want to intercept the bull on his way in before he gets to the position where he's doing his final wind check of the wallow itself. So get on the ground, use whatever natural cover exists, a deadfall, a brush pile, a slight rise in the terrain. You're not trying to get elevated, you're tucked in, you're still, and you're scent free with the wind locked in your face. That's the perfect wallow setup. Now, this one is short because it needs to be simple. I don't believe that you should call it a wallow. You're sitting 40 yards off of one of the most attractive natural locations a bull is going to visit during the early season. He's already coming. He already knows where it is. He doesn't need any encouragement from you. Calling there is only going to make him come in suspiciously. And any sound you make that doesn't belong there is a piece of information he's going to process. A mature bull that's already cautious on his approach to a wallow doesn't need one more reason to hang up, right? right? Calling changes that dynamic. It shifts the bull's attention from the wallow to you or the sound source. Now he's trying to locate the sound or establish where you are and decide whether the situation feels right. That's a much harder interaction to control than a bull simply walking a trail he's walked 100 times before. So let the wallow do the work. Your job is to be invisible until it's time to shoot. Trail cameras on wallows are some of the most effective and valuable scouting tools in elk hunting, and specifically for building a wallow strategy, they're close to indispensable. A camera on the active wallow is going to tell you which bulls are using it and how big they are. It tells you the time of day they're visiting and whether that window aligns with your midday strategy or falls outside of it. It shows you which direction they're entering from, which tells you where to set up and how to approach. And it helps you avoid burning location on a sit when the sign tells you activity has dropped off. Run cameras on every candidate wallow you can find during the summer scouting. Check them before season, not during. Repeated intrusions near a wallow in the weeks before your hunt is going to educate the bulls using it. So let the cameras work. Let the wallow stay quiet, then show up in September ready to execute your midday plan. Now, wallow hunting won't replace a great morning setup on a buelling bull, right? I'm not saying that at all. That's not what this is about. What it is a productive, disciplined way to hunt during hours when a lot of elk hunters have gone back to camp or they're taking a nap in the woods. It's a way to use location that elk are going to visit whether you're there or not, with a setup and approach that gives you a real chance at a mature bull on his terms. Find the right wallow. Read the sign, get the wind right, sit back far enough, stay still, and let the location do the work. That's the system. That's what 34 years of hunting wallows has taught me. If this episode made you realize you need a better elk plan this season, don't just watch another video and hope it all comes together either. Build the plan right now. If you want to study the full elk system on your own, start with my Elk Hunting series of ebooks. If you want daily guidance, accountability, and a place to ask questions as season gets closer, join me on Team Backbone. If you want my eyes on your actual hunt plan, your maps, your access, terrain, pressure points, wind and thermals, and your strategy, book an elk hunt plan audit with me and I'll help you tighten it up before season. If the missing piece is your body, your legs, your lungs, or your ability to handle mountain miles and a heavy pack, check out my Backbone Unlimited training plans. And if nutrition is where you need more structure, getting leaner, fueling long days, or building a better in-season food plan, check out my nutrition plans. The hunters who are ready in September are the ones who start tightening their plan right now. So go to backboneunlimited.com, choose the path that fits where you are right now, and I'll help you get started. Thanks for being here. I appreciate each and every one of you. I'll see you in the comments. Until next time, train harder, hunt smarter, and never settle.